his participation in the Social Forum on Combating Genocide, al-Laham says the Ottomans' crimes in the past and the crimes of terrorism against Syria and Iraq at present represent a war of genocide against both man and history. The Syrian Arab Army continues its operations in Aleppo, Hama, Idlib and al-Qunaitira countryside, eliminating scores of terrorists. The Saudi-led airstrikes on Yemen continue as dialogue is rejected by the political forces until aggression is halted. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to our news for today. People's Assembly Speaker Jihad al-Laham has said, a crime against any human being must be indicted and rejected regardless of its perpetrator. So how would the case be if it were a crime of genocide that claimed the lives of more than 1.5 million Armenians and deported and rendered homeless 1.5 million others? Addressing the Social Forum on Combating the Crime of Genocide in commemoration of the centennial of the Armenians' genocide in Yerevan, Mr. al-Laham said, "We are here to speak out together the voice of humanity against all forms of genocide and policies of exclusion and compulsory deportation. Our world is still witnessing." Al-Laham expressed Syria's condemnation of the genocide to which the Armenian people were exposed at the hands of the Ottoman authorities, pointing out that Syria's participation in the commemoration of this anniversary is an invitation to the world to recognize the rights of other peoples and respect their cultures and civilizations. Al-Laham went on saying that as we recall the most repulsive genocide and crimes against humanity, we witness today crimes that bring to our memory those black days. The systematic Takfiri terrorism in Syria and Iraq targets all the people's components, pursuing a policy of ethnic cleansing, deporting citizens from their homes and rendering them homeless, not to speak of the deliberate destruction of archaeological sites and historical monuments. They all constitute crimes against humanity and a war of genocide against man, history and civilization. Al-Laham concluded his words saying that the Syrian people today, like the Armenian people 100 years ago, appeal to the world's conscience to work in order to stop any support for terror and terrorists who are allowed to cross into Syria from 90 countries in the world to kill the Syrian people. He underlined the importance of unifying efforts to combat this wave of terrorism, which, if allowed to spread, would spare no state across the world. Armenian Prime Minister Hovhannes Abrahamyan has voiced his country's support for Syria in combating the Takfiri terrorism the country is being exposed to by terrorist groups and foreign fighters who have come into the country from various states and have been supported, funded and armed by known regional countries. During his meeting with the People's Assembly Speaker, Mr. Muhammad Jihad al-Laham, in the Armenian capital Yerevan today, Abrahamyan added that the historical relations between Syria and Armenia are increasingly growing each day, pointing out that the Syrian people delegation's participation in the commemoration of the 100th anniversary of the Armenian Genocide reflects the deep friendship and fraternity relations between both peoples in Armenia and Syria. On his part, Mr. al-Laham said both Syria and Armenia represent an example of the fraternal and political relations among countries in the past and present. He expressed confidence in both states' ability to expand the prospects of cooperation in various domains in a manner that is positively reflected on the situation in the region and the world. Al-Laham voiced Syria's solidarity with Armenia on the genocide anniversary, calling on the world to learn from the massacres that have tarnished some obscurant regimes and extremist ideologies and to coordinate efforts to prevent their repetition and to put an end to the terrorism that has been committing crimes against humanity in Syria and Iraq. The Political and Social Forum on Combating Genocide, organized by the Republic of Armenia in commemoration of the centennial anniversary of the Armenian Genocide, had kicked off this morning at Damascus complex in the capital, Yerevan, with the participation of parliamentary and governmental delegations from various parts of the world in expression of their rejection of this heinous crime against humanity which the Ottoman authorities perpetrated against the Armenian people 100 years ago.
I'm here with many other religious and political delegations to commemorate the 100th anniversary of the Armenian Genocide, but also to express our solidarity with the sufferings of many people throughout the world. Even today, many Christians are being continually persecuted, and it is our hope that the entire world will learn from this experience and that perhaps we can soften the hearts of those who are causing such suffering in the world today as they have in the past. So we pray that God will strengthen us and soften the hearts of those who are causing these difficulties so that there may be peace and justice throughout the world. It's certainly a great tragedy that such killings are taking place, and certainly we have to do everything that we can to encourage the governments to do the right thing, to support those things that will bring about peace.
Armenians around the world commemorate the 100th anniversary of the genocide in which 1.5 million Armenians were killed at the hands of the butchers of the Ottoman Empire on April 24, 1915, in a most repulsive carnage in human history.
The mass killing of the Armenian people was committed during World War I when the Ottomans annihilated hundreds of Armenian villages in an attempt to change the demography of those areas. However, the mass murderers peaked on April 24, 1915, when the Turkish government brought together hundreds of prominent Armenian figures in Istanbul and executed them in the city's squares. There followed slaughters and genocides against millions of Armenian families who were deported through the desert. Nearly 1 million Armenians were killed or deported by the Ottoman Turks. The Armenian wound, which is still bleeding, lingers till today under the failure of international laws to force the Turkish government, the successor of the Ottoman butchers, to acknowledge the crimes and offer an official apology to the Armenian people. The genocide, however, is breeding more massacre, with the Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan given a free hand, trying to realize his Ottoman obsessions. 5 years now into the crisis in Syria, Erdogan goes ahead with shedding more Syrian blood, providing unlimited support to ISIS and Jabhat al-Nusra terrorist organizations. The Armenians around the world are adherent to their right and have been annually marking the genocide by staging activities and events and launching campaigns seeking an acknowledgement of the slaughter.
Welcome back. Syrian Arab army units have dealt severe blows to terrorist hideouts in various provinces. In Idlib suburb, the Syrian Arab army has foiled attempts by terrorists to infiltrate into the BRICS camp, inflicting on them heavy losses in men and material. The Syrian Arab Air Force also targeted terrorist gatherings east of the BRICS factory, killing and wounding many of them. In Aleppo countryside, a number of al-Nusra terrorists have been killed and their weapons and ammunition destroyed in their Hafer, Tal al-Hatabat, Tal Ahmar and Ain Jamajima. Others were killed in Sheikh Ahmed and Sharia villages, as well as in Jibrin neighborhood and Al-Matahin residential area in Manbij. In Hama suburb, meanwhile, al-Nusra armed men were eliminated in 4 villages and in 2 sites in Al-Qunaitira countryside. The Iraqi army liberated the old Al-Karma road east of Al-Fallujah, in addition to 3 villages and 2 rivers north of the district. A security source said the army was able to liberate other areas like Al-Bustoda and Al-Busalman villages and Al-Halabsa river, adding that the Iraqi army killed a big number of terrorists. Meanwhile, 8 people were killed and 16 others wounded following a terrorist car explosion in Balad city north of the capital Baghdad. The Iraqi troops destroyed an ISIL operation and command center and attacked armed groups in Mosul and Kirkuk, killing 140 terrorists. Finally, the Saudi airstrikes were renewed against Yemen, targeting residential areas in Taiz as warships shelled Aden region despite the announcement about the halt of the military campaign. The airstrikes launched missiles on Ad-Dilami air base and several areas in Al-Makhazin in Hajjah, west of Yemen. The Saudi airstrikes also targeted Kofel military barracks and a camp for special operations in Taiz. With this, to conclude our news for today. Thank you for watching. For more details about Syria and the region and to view this bulletin again, you can always visit our website in English, syriaonline.sy. Now to latest business and market news with Karun Kürkcan, but after a short break.